It's just preparing.
I've got an outlet box, and I'll close that, I guess. There we go. Is the camera good?
Yep, looks it.
Oh yeah. Where's the improve the look of the guest button? That's what I'm looking at.
Okay, so it looks like, just let me manage to adjust my screens. It says we are now live. So good afternoon, world. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 5 of Meet the Shedi. It's me, Nathan Sarea, and I'm here with the lovely Mr. Phil Johnson from the United States Men's Sheds Association. So this has come about through our connection on, we've been meaning to connect for many months, but as usual, everyone's so busy with sheds. But during this last week's Shed Fest, during one of the live Zoom sessions, we had about 30 people on the first night, and we were going around and asking everyone where they were from, and everyone was chatting, and this person called Phil Johnson appeared in the bottom of the screen. And so we went down and, oh, where's Phil from? Which shed is Phil from? And as soon as Phil said, oh, hi, I'm Phil, I'm from Minnesota, everyone cheered. And there was a round of applause. And
yeah,
it was one of those...
I'll remember that, Nathan. Sure.
Yeah, it was a beautiful moment. And so we've been communicating ever since. And so you've agreed to come on as a guest on the Meet the Shedi show. And I'm really pleased to have you here, Phil, because the movement in the US is in its really early stages and really exciting times. So if you would, give us a little bit of your own background so the viewers and listeners can get to know you and how you got into this lovely world of sheds.
Terrific, Nathan. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed the Shed Fest 2020 last week. We've had a chance. The U.S. Men's Shed has been around for about 3.5 years now, so we've had a chance to talk to the various national association chairman and folks, but to see so many folks all at once, and it's just the technology of Zoom. It really makes it fun, and I really felt like I was sitting there in the room with you. My background is that I had been retired for a little while, and my story is my father had, once he retired, he struggled a bit. My heritage is a combination of English and Scandinavian, and he was a very self-sufficient person. And to this day, I wish he would have had a shed, because he was the son of a hardware store owner and teacher. He knew how to do all these things and enjoyed it, but it was just hard getting out of the house. As we all know, now I'm retired, it was a little tough. So when I retired, I thought, I want to do something. And I did a search on retired men's activity, and that's what Google's good for, right?
Yep.
When I pulled it up, the first thing that came up, literally the first thing on the screen, was men's sheds. And I'd never heard of men's sheds, but as I read about it, I said, hey, this sounds fun. This looks, to me, sounded like Boy Scouts for old guys.
Yeah.
So I checked it out, and I was looking, of course, where's my nearest shed? Where can I sign up?
Yeah, where can I get some of this?
I find out my nearest shed is Ireland.
It's a little far for a daily commute. Yeah.
Well, it's not really true, but it's Canada. But give or take 1,000 miles. So when I couldn't find my local shed, I called up John Boy. I found his name, and he was extremely welcoming and nice, and glad to hear we were doing something. And we had started a shed in Hopkins, Minnesota, which is in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area.
Okay.
And had no idea what we were doing, but we had a sponsor, senior center in Hopkins, and the gal who ran it was the director. When she heard about this, she may have seen it before I did, because she said, that sounds great. Let's do that. And
let's run with it.
so we basically became an activity. And I enjoyed when we first got started. We did have a dozen fellows show up at our information night. And I knew that much from reading how to do it stuff from various countries mentioned. So we got started, and because we were sponsored, of course, everything was there already. The senior center provided the space, and so we held a meeting within 3 weeks, I think. Our first meeting was December of 2016, and we were off and running. The biggest challenge, I really like this thing. Our biggest challenge is all we knew is what I was reading on the website, right? There was no book or manual how to start a shed in the US. So I kept telling the guys for the first 2 weeks, I really remember this, that we've got to find an activity. That's what it says. You got to find an activity. And everybody was, well, as you expect, not everybody wanted to do wood shop or other things. And finally, at the end of the third week, one of our members, Joe Holisek, said, well, I don't know what we'll do for an activity, but I know they need some shelving put up in the storage room of the senior center. Why don't we do that? And we were off and running. It was great. So we took 4 weeks. We're meeting once a week, and we put the shelves up, but we had to paint the wall first and fill some holes. And by the end of that project, we said, boy, we've got this nailed. This is good stuff. The other thing that icebreaker we had that I'll still remember is so we were kind of sitting around the table, looking at each other, and one guy finally piped up. It turned out we all had smartphones, which surprised me. I think of older guys. I think, well, boy, it's going to be tough with technology.
With technology, yeah.
He has his phone out, and he says, darn it, I can never send a picture to my daughter. I've got some stuff I want to send her, and one of the other guys actually knew how to do it. So right away in that meeting, we had one of the members doing a tutorial on, okay, guys, bring out your smartphone.
Bring out your smartphone.
Pull up a picture, do this, do that. And so again, as a group, we got it right away. None of us knew each other, but we quickly found we liked each other and had lots to talk about. So that's really the way we got started. And since then, it's a matter of here in Minnesota, we now have 5 sheds. So it was a matter of talking to some more people about who wanted sheds. Actually, 2 of our sheds are in for-profit. One is a apartment complex where the activities director read about it and said she wanted that. Another one is a for-profit residential care.
Okay.
And so we've got a nice mixture of for-profits and nonprofit sponsors of this.
Yep. I think it's always important, isn't it, when you're starting out, don't turn away help and don't turn away any source which can start the sheds rolling, because when the movement's in its infancy, you're trying to get going, really, you need help from every place that you can get it. So whoever's doing that good work, or whoever's supporting that start of the movement, go with it. And I think as long as the guys all remain friends and feel like getting everything out of it, it's perfect.
Sure.
Yeah, it's about having a model which there's no one size fits all. And even my own shed, I mean, we started out, it was established by the Red Cross, the initial group, and then the local Mind mental health charity drew down some funding to start supporting the project. And so, and then finally, I think within that year, we went independent as an organization and as a company, because we've grown so fast and so strong. And so we set up as a company limited by guarantee in the December of 2015, and then gained charitable status. And that's how we started. But looking at the model in Ireland, that when I first went there in 2016, there was a lot of sheds that were supported by big third sector backers.
Sure.
So sometimes it's a nice, as long as it works, it's nice to have that support initially, because it's a tough thing to do, whichever way you look at it. Running sheds, starting sheds, maintaining sheds takes a lot of work, takes a lot of focus.
Well, it is nice that the program is so accepting. At the very base of it, it's, and it's great that I had that experience of opening a shed myself before I started telling everybody else how to do it, how to have a shed. And so it was great. And we got it right away. Said, boy, it's a matter of just being in the room with each other, listening to each other, talking about, ourselves and real things. And it just worked. Which I'm glad. It just, it's been what, 3.5 years now for that one shed at Hopkins. And it's been a great trip. And like I said, I've had a chance to meet a few people, but it wasn't until last week where I had a chance to meet a whole screen full of people. I took a couple of screen captures because it's great. They've got pictures and people's names, and I thought, wow, I want to remember this.
No, it's one of those little historical moments, which I think it's just the wave of applause was just fantastic. But I think everyone was just sort of so happy and so elated to get together with so many other shedders from around the world. And then for you to come, everyone said afterwards, they were like, when Phil spoke, that was the icing, literally the icing on the cake was Phil from Minnesota. I think it just gave everyone such a buzz, because shedders love to connect with other shedders. And this is something which, ever since I went to Ireland in the first early days of joining the board of the UK MSA, was my own experience of connecting with these guys and meeting Doug from Canada and George from Men's Sheds Kenya, and talking to the guys from Australia. And then there's so it's grown since then, but it's just lovely. And spend so much quality time with the guys out there is the really important thing. And you get this, and then obviously bringing Doug over to Denby to meet the guys in my shed started this massive shift for some of them. So I think opening up the gateway to the international connection of sheds is one of the most important things, because as soon as you start connecting sheds, they start to realize they're part of something greater. And then you start to connect people throughout the UK. They realize, well, we've got so many there's more that unites us than divides us. We've got so many common issues. And then you take that onto a global perspective. Well, it's all the same stuff, just replicated over and over, just different situations in different countries, but lots of lovely people and lots of lovely energy.
Yeah. The technology has gone over just great. I moved out to a small town, somewhat away from the city, and it's just been great. And when the pandemic hit, it was a few weeks before we figured out, we could meet virtually, and it was great. And so we just set up a Zoom meeting, and of course, surprise, surprise, after 40 minutes, the screen went dead.
Oh, really? Oh, because it had the basic. That's
going to happen if you run more than 40 minutes.
If you got the basic package, 40 minutes, and then you think, we won't be on for more than an hour. And it's the same every time. And every time, we do these meetings, we'll only be on for a bit. And then, as soon as you get chatting, time just goes, and you quickly, 40 minutes is nothing. And that's why I think a lot of us now started to opt for the pro package, because, and this is I'm not going to say it's an advert for Zoom, but thank you, Zoom, because it has kept us connected, and we've jumped on and used this technology. And I think the important thing is it's been used to great effect, because now we've started creating this lovely networking, you know, movement, which we're going to continue. And so it's been really, really useful. Again, I say there's lots of people out there that we need to make sure we get connected. And I think I'll be looking at that, because Paul Creakin, who was on a couple of weeks back, Paul's then since informed me that, for example, there's an initiative in Scotland to get people connected. So I want to be looking at what we can do, at least here in the UK, to start making sure that the people who are less digitally literate and enabled can get enabled, so they can still be joined on. Because we're still not out of the shadow of this COVID thing yet. I mean, how has it been for you out in the USA?
Say that again, please.
How has the COVID scare been happening in the USA?
It really depends. At least they're still mowing the grass, if you can hear that in the background. No, it's going okay as we follow what's going on around the world. To me, it's about the same. Again, the ethnicity of this area in Minnesota has a lot of, Northern European culture, and so I think it's kind of traditional. A lot of people are generally self-sufficient and take care of themselves and their neighbors, and it seems to have worked out. Our governor, we have a governor here in the state of Minnesota. I think he's been a great leader. He stepped forward right away and said, you know, this is our thing. You know, we're going to take care of each other and we're going to make it work. And okay, and we have. So my wife and I stay in. We're both retired now, so we stay at home. We have children, adult children, and they come by, but we're very careful. It's certainly not very easy to see the difficulty any of us can run into from the pandemic. So we take it seriously, and things seem to be going well.
Good. How are the guys in the sheds holding up? Are they giving you much feedback about how it's been impacting on them?
Yeah, the two for-profit sheds are one, say, in a 360 apartment complex, and it's a little more difficult for them. We're so used to going down to, you know, the clubhouse there in the apartment complex, and so that was a little slow to get going, and but the other sheds have jumped on very quickly. We're now have opened things back up somewhat. So three of the sheds here in Minnesota and others in the country, we're all now meeting kind of again with social distancing. Either in our buildings or outside. One thing that's popular among sheds here in the States is things like adopting a park. So the city municipalities are responsible for having and maintaining parks. So you know, so all the sheds that I work with are already outside. You know, at least once a month. You know, for one of their weekly meetings, they get outside and wear their masks and gloves and go out. And of course, as all shedders know, the purpose of that isn't to be picking up trash. The purpose of that is to go out and talk with each other. and so that's what you do. You walk around and, you know, check in with each other. How are things going? And it just goes from there. A lot of, I love the term banter, as your viewers may know. That's not a real American term, but I mean, it just you know, that back and forth of, you know, joking with each other, I think is great, and a part of the shed culture that I enjoy the most.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Nobody sits in a shed meeting and just sits
Yeah,
there with their arms folded. You know, it just, for the people that want to be there, that's just part of it. You know, who
yeah.
can we get on now? You know, who's wearing a silly shirt, or you know, who comes in late, or you know, just who knows what. But
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is the
It's
great.
all that kind-hearted, you like you say, that kind-hearted banter. It's just it's a lot of the way that guys communicate.
Yeah,
We check in and we do this thing, and it's about just checking in with people in a kind of yeah. It's a very male thing. Like I said, when you meet a lot of guys, they'll always tell stories, tell funny stories, or they'll have a bit of banter, and it's just a way of that men check in and actually feel safe and kind of know where they are. And it's also the way that we detect if people are actually okay. Now, people think that it's just it's a disrespectful thing that people do, that men do, but it isn't, because in a way, what we're doing is we're allowing a man to actually tell us he's not okay. So if you have a little bit of banter and that guy and the guy kind of doesn't react in the same way he normally would, you'd be like, "Are you okay? You know what's up?"
yeah,
You'd have a you know we are very sensitive. Men's intuition is pretty strong with things like that, and you can tell when one of your guys is not okay. And then most guys you'll find will make an effort to actually check out with that person, even if it's just quietly to one side. We will make a point of making sure that guy's okay. So, you know, a lot of the banter people, if they witness it from the outside, some people will be like, "Oh my gosh, are you really saying that to each other?" Or
right.
is that a is it an aggressive way of interacting? But no, it's actually a very playful way of interacting. And when
Yeah,
you create one of these lovely shed environments where people feel safe, guys will tell you things. They will tell you what's really
yeah,
going on if you give them the space to do that.
yeah. Uh, I found that was true. I thought it might take some prompting, or you know, when we first started going, but again, we all, because our folks are all retired.
Yeah.
We tend to be mainly older white and blue collar workers, and
Mhm.
we really do check on each other. And I know when we meet and have a meeting, it's, you know, anybody who's not there, someone will just say, "Hey, I see Bob's
Yeah.
not here this week.
Yeah.
Anybody heard anything?" You know, or
Yeah.
especially if someone doesn't show up for a couple of weeks, you know, somebody will say, "Well, volunteer, hey, let me give Bob a call. I'll
Yeah.
check with him this afternoon or this evening, and
Yeah.
you know, yeah, let's make sure he's doing okay."
Yeah, that's perfect. I think that that's a really unsung part of the shed culture as well, is that, you know, this phenomenon of the empty chair to the way that the group dynamic forms with the shed, to me, is you are almost like you feel that community bond with each other. And the week that someone isn't there is the week that everyone notices, where's he gone? Where's that person
Yeah,
gone? And then if it's left any longer than 2 weeks, well, pretty much within a week, someone will have already reached out to them on Facebook, through social
yeah,
media, or phone them. And that really is a lovely practice. I think the more that we can stay on top of that kind of thing, particularly at the moment, the stronger our sheds are. And there's people that, you know, I know that if any of my guys from Denby were to go missing for more than a couple of weeks, it's an immediate sign that something's not okay. And so we'd always reach out and try and get someone to them.
right.
And that in the past has proven that, you know, and sometimes we all get too busy, we all get overwhelmed.
Yes,
And you know, you'd be surprised how quickly some people can slip back into isolation. So
sure.
it's
Oh, that,
it's a lot to carry, isn't it? Really, you know,
yeah,
we are very, as long as you can share it with the group and the group is very aware of that. I think if it's all on one person's shoulders,
sure.
it's quite a strain.
I wanted to say some of the things that might be a little different here. And again, it may be just because we're so new to, even after 3 years, we're still pretty new to the men's shed concept. One thing that's true here is, as many of your viewers may know, the culture in America is very litigious. And
Yeah.
so we take uh, uh, insurance and those potential issues very seriously. And I think to start here in the US, we have more sponsored or auspiced sheds than we do regular sheds. And a part of that is people saying, I don't know if I want to sign up to be responsible for all this. I find that even our sponsored sheds do a lot of projects. So not everybody's a woodworker, but everybody in our shed likes to do community service. And we reach out, we have some sheds with very good relationships with things like adult daycare centers for older people, particularly those who might be suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, because we all know that, that could all be us before too long. And so, for instance, one of our adult daycare centers, we found out they needed flower boxes. So one of the guys in the shed had a table saw and he cut up the lumber, but all the lumber and the hardware got brought to the, it's like just a classroom or a conference room. And the guys put it together there, and then they take it outside and paint it, and we put on wheels. So now that adult daycare center has movable flower beds or plant beds, and it really works out well for the residents or the clients there. So we've done, we've built picnic tables for the city workers for the city that sponsors that particular shed. So we do that. One thing I always think of as kind of interesting, we do talk to, the sheds talk to their various city governments, particularly like Public Works. And what we do like to do is find a niche. We don't want to take work away, from the workers in the city, but we'd like to fit in that niche kind of between pure the things that the city has to do because maybe they're driving a power mower or, motorized hedge trimmer.
Yeah.
We'll do things. One of them at the Hopkins shed, the city festival every summer, they put up a lot of no parking signs because, the city gets pretty overwhelmed with people. And so that's something every year the men's shed does. They have, sticks of wood and cardboard posters that say, no parking. And so we staple those together, and it's a great 45-minute project to do 200 signs. And again, we enjoy it. In that case, we go to a city maintenance facility where we do the work. So, it really has worked out well. And everything I read about the shed is true here. The feeling of giving back to your community.
Yeah.
And the community feeling ownership and pride in their men's shed. They really are welcoming, and the guys, like you say, at the heart of it, the guys just like doing things for other people.
Yeah.
We attract those sort of guys, and just like they are worldwide, I think.
Yep. It's lovely, and I think that there's a couple of things at play there. Being of service to your fellow man is probably one of the highest motivations. There's a thing called the scale of motivations, and being in service is the highest of the positive motivations. So there's a lot that does that. There's a guy that developed the 8 TLCs. He's an American therapist, and he talks about the TLCs are the 8 therapeutic lifestyle changes, and one of them is giving back. So it's actually, so things like nature and good diet and exercise, but giving back is one of the 8 TLCs, which they use to actually help people, treat their or increase their well-being. And so I think that that's absolutely true. That being able to, for a man especially, being able to contribute to the world, to their community, have meaning, even if it's something small. And that's why I say, as long as sheds are making something every day and feeling good and just doing something, you're almost like you're paying back into the world. And I think it's nice that in the United States you've got that. Generally, you've got a really good community feel. There's a lot of sense of community and national identity in a really positive way around. So you see a lot of a lot of the faith groups are out doing the soup kitchens for people and supporting people, and there is a lot of love. Every country's got its issues, but I do think that what you've got going for the sheds movement there is building on that, even if it's a slow burn, even if it's just the little things. Every little thing that gets noticed is paying forward and paying back some little piece of good into the world. So yeah, great stuff, Phil. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's true. One thing that people ask me sometimes, what about activities if you don't have a wood shop or a workshop of something? We find not everybody, but most guys, are handy enough to participate. They can all drive a screw or pound a nail or, hold some wood together. They enjoy that. But one thing the first shed did here in Hopkins, the first shed in the continental United States, they started to keep track of what they did every week. And I didn't even think about that until about 6 months down the line. And fellow comes in one day, his name is Joe, and he said, okay, I typed out all the things we've done. Well, they've kept that list up, and it's been 3 years, once a week at least. So they've got 150 activities they've done. And we can certainly make available to your viewers, but we have a list that we can send out to folks. Say, we're thinking about starting a shed. What do we do? And boy, we've got ideas. So, and a lot of them are community service, but one thing that's very popular among sponsored sheds here in the States is doing things. We might invite speakers in, and again, that's very common to what I've read about other sheds. Particularly, speakers might come in, people tied to healthcare. One of the most interesting speakers we had come in was a person from the Alzheimer's Association, and gave us a nice but frank talk about, here are the signs to look for in yourself, or, the guys in the sheds. And, here's the way things work. And it's not something I would ever bring up, hey guys, let's talk about Alzheimer's.
Sure.
And we're all kind of afraid of, but it's great because, we're all thinking about it if, at our society today. The other thing is getting out and visiting places. Sheds seem to have a real good interest in historical societies and museums. And so I know here in Minnesota, all the sheds are in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, which has about 3 million people. So it's a big metropolitan area.
Yeah, that's a big area.
State capital is here, and a Federal Reserve Bank, and lots of things to go see and do that you never would do by yourself. But it's fun when someone says, hey, let's go to the state capitol. They did a 4-year refurbishment I've never seen. Let's go see it. And it's about 45 minutes or an hour away. So we carpool over there, which is great time for more talk. And when we get there, it's fun. They're all, of course, very user friendly and transportation friendly. So our members that maybe don't walk as fast as others, or who might need assistance, either wheelchair or a walker, all these public buildings are set up for that now. So, and some of the other interesting things, we had a fellow who had a son who was an astronaut and
Wow.
who had been up to the space station. So, the guy talked for an hour about, here's my trip to Russia, where they had to go for his son to get launched to go up into the space station. And he had pictures of his son floating around and, eating food or doing experiments, being outside the space. Well, the guys loved it, and you understand that that's just, there's so many things. I know our most recent shed here in Minnesota is in the town where I live now, Mound. And one of the guys in the group used to be a safety officer on a nuclear submarine. Now, talk about interesting, and something 99.9% of us have no idea what it's about. And to have him talk about that, I myself am a veteran, and I happen to have been a pilot, a naval aviator. So,
oh, no way.
And presentations on, one thing I did is I looked up like airplane crashing tapes from the time I was in the service. So, it's all kind of grainy film, but here's all the things you don't want to do when you're landing on an aircraft carrier. And then it's a picture guys doing dumb things or losing control. And so, but it's nicely done. But then to see it back in the day is very interesting too, because guys our age who are aware of the military or may have been in the military, they know a lot of this stuff. Oh yeah, there's that particular plane that we all knew about, or
somebody actually did an experiment in this. We're talking about like the way that having something stimulate your mind back to a younger time in your life actually is proven to be physically rejuvenating and mentally rejuvenating. So it's really interesting that you show that, because somebody did this study. I'm trying to think who it was, but they basically had a group of folks who their teens were back in the 50s, and they did the study, and they let one group live as normal in today's contemporary life, just in a hotel, and the other group they let them live right back in the 50s with 50s music and movies, and access to all this kind of stuff. And they found that the group that had the access to all the stuff from the 50s and were literally living and thriving in it, they began to almost regenerate. At least their immune systems were up, all their functions were up. So it really goes to show that you get the right kind of stimulus, that it's really going to work, and it makes people feel happy and healthy. Just even listening to some of that really cool music from back in the day, it does it for all of us. So there's all these little bits and pieces that I think make the magic of sheds work in many different ways. So, what were you flying in the Navy, Phil? Because I'm an aviation. I love planes.
I was a single seat fighter pilot, and I did that for 5.5 years and enjoyed that. I came from a family, as like most families, the guys my age, our parents, served during or around the time of World War
II. Yeah.
I always and I was kind of a danger-seeking guy in my younger days, and so I always wanted to go in the service and do that. I had a chance to do that. I was married through most of it, and my wife and I had a great time. It was before we had children. So living in California or out on the East Coast, it was, every weekend it's, hey, let's go do something fun. And we enjoyed it, and it was quite a time. I think it worked out great for me anyway. And to, obviously the idea of flying a jet, it's just, wow. When you're 23, where else is someone multi-million-dollar sports car and say, hey, just go out
Point it in that direction. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've always been a big supporter. By the way, one initiative we're doing here in the States, again, I've read Barry Golding's book and lots of material on what you guys have been doing elsewhere in the world. And we are doing more and working towards doing more with veterans groups. And I know, having talked to people like yourself and people like Barry and others, and being a veteran myself, I said, boy, that's great. How can we help? How can we help our veterans? And we now have a fellow in Detroit, Michigan, who's working with a VA medical center there in Detroit. And
awesome.
I have a medical center here in Minneapolis. So I've just joined a suicide prevention coalition for people that support veterans, particularly those fighting PSTD and so, but it's so much, one thing I'm aware of, I'm not going to come up with any idea that's new or something no one else in the world has done. I just like all the literature that's available from you folks in the UK and Australia, New Zealand, Canada. If I have an idea, I just look it up and sure, somebody's already done that. And there, 3 sheds in Scotland that all are doing some idea. I thought, boy, no one would ever think of this but me,
Yeah.
And
it's great. Yeah.
People have. And again, I want to say a thank you to really all the guys in sheds around the world. You've all been so welcoming and so helpful, and offers to, what do you call it? Twinning, which is a new term for us. That sounds great. We, they say our biggest cluster of sheds is here in Minnesota, in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, where we have 5. And so we're the first state where there are enough sheds together to say, hey, let's get together and just meet each other and do projects that we enjoy doing. So I'm looking forward, more and more to, looking through and working in those situations that you guys already have. By the way, for your viewers, it turns out that the population of my state, Minnesota, happens to be within a couple thousand of the population of Ireland. And of course, Ireland has 400, 500, 600 sheds, and Minnesota has 5, and we're the most anywhere in the country. So, think, hey, this is going to grow. And
it is
already starting, like you said, what you guys have done with Shed Fest over the years. I'd love the Minnesota group to have a conference and do more of those things, those group things that you guys already have a head start on and are enjoying doing. It just easy and
I think you definitely need to do it, and that's why I said you need to think about shed stock and then starting that. I mean, I think that'd just be a really good fun thing. And now we know that the technology works. You can open it up internationally and have people connected on Zoom and on StreamYard, these different platforms which make it really accessible, which is the beauty of it now. We've almost proven the model and proven that you just got to get the right balance on it, and the technology can work. Make sure your people can get to it, make sure your people can connect to it. And it just allows you to open it. And there's people in the UK that couldn't travel to the main national event. So people have actually said, this has been great for them because they couldn't connect before. And, connecting the guys, so many great ideas have come out, and new sheds start and new initiatives start when you bring these people together. And so, for us, the conversations we've been having over the last few months, connecting with different groups, yourself included, Phil, have just generated such great ideas. And I'm really pleased that it's starting to take off with connecting with the veterans in the United States. So I think that's a really good angle for you guys to start with. I know that a lot of people come out and say they support veterans, and then there's a lot of volunteer support, but then not a lot of organizations are putting massive money into it. But it's a great need. And I'll say, out of all the countries in the world, the United States is the one place that I've had the strongest connection with throughout my entire life. My aunt was married to a tech sergeant in the USAF. So I used to spend, from age 11, I used to spend my time on Woodbridge Air Force Base in the East Anglia in the UK. I've always loved aviation. I was heading into the Air Force myself, but I've holidayed and come over to the States a few times. And one of my last visits, which would have been it was a while ago, 2005, just before around my 25th birthday. And I went from Texas, we went to Colorado to stay for a week with some friends, and hired a Jeep, brand new Jeep Cherokee, went for a drive. And when we talk about, I don't think people really outside of it don't really appreciate the PTSD that some of the veterans in the States have got, and just how strong it is. It's quite unnerving, because we were driving to a place called Nederland, which is in the Rockies from where we were staying. And my friend saw a place that said, like there was a shop. We wanted some eggs. And it went down into this little valley. There's like a sign saying Ward. Now, for those of you that are tuning in from the United States, you may be or maybe not aware of this place called Ward in Colorado. So we went down into this strange little valley. And there's this kind of like, really sort of wooden shacks, broken down old army vehicles, animal skeletons nailed to the porches. And it was like, okay, this is an interesting place. We saw the shop, and my friend that I was traveling with, so I pulled up. She says, "You're coming in?" I said, "No, I'm just going to sit in the Jeep." So she ran in the shop, and I'm just parked facing the shop. Behind me is a cliff face, and there's some holes in the rocks, like caves. And as I'm looking out of this cave in the rock face, comes a guy who must have been a Vietnam vet, because this is 2005, and he already looked middle-aged then, and he had sort of like long straggly hair, beard, bandana, like a flak jacket vest on. Anyway, his appearance wasn't the thing that bothered me, but the guy in one hand had a broadsword and the other hand had a submachine gun, like a machine pistol type thing.
Sure. And
he just looked at me with the 1,000-yard stare, turned and just walked with lifeless eyes and just this kind of like vacant, and he just walked across the cliff face and walked. And I remember just trying to send this telepathic message to my friend saying, "Get out of the shop, get out of the shop." And she came back with the eggs, and she was all like, "Oh, no, no, no." I was like, "Get in the damn Jeep, get in the damn Jeep." And we tore out of this place, and I was like, no way. And when we got back to her friend's house, I said, "We went into this place today, this place called Ward." And she was like, "You didn't go there, did you?" Yeah, we went for some eggs. But I think it really, and years later, I met a girl who was a nurse from Colorado, and we got into this conversation about Ward, and she said, "Oh, there was an incident where one of the guys just absolutely lost it, and almost leveled the whole town."
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned you coming here. Of course, I've been to Europe a number of times on business, but I always wanted to get to the UK. It turns out, and I don't know how I heard about it or got interested in it, but I've become very interested in narrow boating. And that attracts me. Now, Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes. So a lot of water sports here. And I, like everybody else, grew up, with a cabin or that sort of thing. So I love the peacefulness of the water. And I would love to get over to the UK and do that someday. Well, of course, first thing I think of, let's see, there's this canal, and I go look at the shed location map, and I say,
is there a shed near it?
I'm kind of interested in the Bath area just because of the the Romans and this. And I've checked. There's a men's shed in Bath, and if I do get a chance to go over there, someone there in your association might be getting a call.
I might sponsor you to come. Yeah.
I just couldn't think of a more relaxing thing to do than.
Oh no, it is nice. If you do come over, Phil, you'd be more than welcome to stay with me here, because I'm not more than about 15 miles from the Llangollen Canal, and it's got the big the Frontiscolti, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, the Frontiscolti aqueduct,
Yes.
sorry, which is the big sort of 300-foot aqueduct that goes across the valley, the Dee Valley. So yeah, we'll have to go and take a trip across that. That's exciting. I mean, because you've only got your narrowboat is up against the cast iron wall,
Yeah.
bumping on the cast iron wall, and next to you is the footpath with just a handrail. So but when it's only when you start going across and you just think, keep your eyes on the distance. Don't look down, don't look left, don't look right. It's when you pass over the bit where the plug is, because sometimes they empty it and they open this gigantic plug and it just sort of plummets 300 feet out of the aqueduct and empties it. But it's a lovely life. I had friends that bought narrow boats and actually had them as their homes. It's a really beautiful, it's a very, very relaxing way of life.
Sure. Yeah, it sounds that way. And I like the human scale of the UK canal system, the the locks and the gates and things that isn't flip a switch and turn on a machine. It's you get out of your boat and you go up,
turn a handle,
do some wind chain to get the water in, and then you open the gates, and it just a real human scale for me.
Oh yeah.
To say being on a cruise ship going through the Panama Canal, I like it that there's something where I can actually
get your hands on it.
If you're going up a flight of 7 locks, I mean, that sounds like fun to me. I get to get out of the boat 7 times and, push some stuff around. So.
Oh, that's it. If you come over, we're going to have to hire a boat now. You've laid the gauntlet down, or find somebody with one that's willing to lend it to us for a few days, and we can travel up and travel down. And I think you'd love. Oh well, it's the UK is one of these countries that's just packed with so much history, in every square mile of it. So it's beautiful. I mean, if you want to go narrowboating, there's so many options to do it. Oh, you'll love it. Yeah, we should even go and check out a place that makes them, because building them's a real art.
Yeah, one of the other things I'd like to do, my family is very much into American soccer, or of course professional football, and I would love to go to a Premier League game and everything we hear and about the crowds and the people supporting their teams and the singing and the scarves, and I'd love to do that. I've been to American football and soccer games. We have a professional soccer team here in the Minneapolis area. And so that's fun, but I'd like to go to where it all started and really be in that authentic
crowd feel.
And
I might have to go as your bodyguard.
Yeah.
I'll be like, leave Phil alone. Leave Phil alone. He's with me.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we got to pick the right team, and that's a very contentious issue. That's why I think we had this conversation where football is the only contentious, or soccer is the only contentious subject that we sort of allow in sheds. But people are very fanatical about their teams. It's like a real tribal thing. Yeah. So if you make it over, we'll find somewhere where we can make that happen. And
the guys in whatever city we go to, whatever shed, I'm sure they're gonna put me in the opposing team's colors without telling me. And then hey, let's see what happens to Phil.
Is he still there? On the other side of the stadium. Oh, it seems he's made some friends. They're lifting him up so he can see better. Yeah. Oh no, it is funny. But yeah, it's to get that authentic feel. I think people, that's what guys describe is the rush of being in the crowd. You know, when everyone's cheering, or your side scores. It's just that elation, that feeling of connection. So, oh yeah, there you go. So I think we're mapping out your holiday for you. I can feel an exchange trip coming on. That would be fantastic. But it's lovely that we can do things like that, and actually, you know, through our connection through sheds, just and it's lovely, and thanks to everyone that's offered, you know, a space to stay for me as well. It's just really lovely. I really appreciate it, because to me this is the spirit of it, that there is, when it comes to the sheds, we're one world movement, and we should be able to reach out absolutely, you know, to whoever we choose to, or allow it to organically connect like we've done. So it's just a really lovely process, and something that we want to foster more and more of, because it makes for a better life for everybody and a better world. And also, you don't feel so alone in your issues, and then you find you've got these lovely sort of historical connections. I think with sheds, you know, in one thing I like is thinking about sheds, and in their context of where they're based, think about the cultural history of that area, and if the shed can be involved in some of the regeneration or the preservation of history and the preservation of culture and preservation of stories, I think that's a fantastic thing. You know, it's or you get to that place where you feel you're beginning to really reconnect with the community properly and restore community for people. It's very important in today's modern world.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And everybody I know loves to travel, and it gets harder as you get older.
Sure.
And I mean, what we want to do anyway is, you know, meet the people and understand the culture, and you know, do that. And now with technology, there's no reason we can't have a twin shed meeting and get to hear and talk to people. You know, I can't say that we'll always understand some of the heavier accents, but again, that's part of it. That's the fun of it. That's how people.
It is the fun of it, yeah.
Just like we'd want you to appreciate, you know, our culture and what we do. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think we should definitely make it happen. So from our point of view, from the Shed Sans Frontiers point of view, the connection of all the sort of global groups on Zoom, and you know, just facilitating a natural connection with everybody is something that we're fostering and working on right now. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll have something actually up and running so that people can begin to interface with that properly. We're already connected each other, and then we'll look at the shed and breakfast concept, which is something we've been discussing for a while. Ever since my first trip to Ireland, we started discussing shed and breakfast so that we can start actually having people, you know, come and stay, and then we'll tour sheds and we'll do some activities, so that everyone begins to have this lovely cultural exchange, which is so it is really important. I think at first the value of it wasn't really understood, but I ever since I brought guys to the shed, and for me, you know, the impact was huge. And then to see it happen for my members, and to see how it literally changed their lives for the better.
Yes.
Just one conversation. And so, you know, when we go back to sheds, hopefully we will start to roll out this new technological interface, so we can have cameras and have Zoom screens, and for the guys that are less mobile or just enjoy the social aspect more, they can actually have international connections and be sat there talking to their counterparts across the world throughout the day. So this is something which I think is really, really beautiful. We should really start to, you know, crystallize that into something real. So yeah, lots of good things to think about, definitely. So Phil, talk a little bit for the viewers about the current state of sheds in the USA, where they are, and if you know how they're getting on and what they're doing. I think everyone will be interested in that.
Yeah, the first shed to form was actually in Hawaii. One of our fellow, who's one of our directors, Glenn Sears, was the first to, you know, register as a 501(c) or nonprofit corporation, and that was towards the end of 2016. so there's a couple of sheds in Hawaii. And then coming over to the States, we have a few sheds, I think 2 or 3 now in Washington State, near the Seattle area. And those guys are, one of the sheds there from the Bellingham shed is the place where they've got a hotbed of Zoom meeting experts. And so they've been helping us set up with the national leadership. Hey, let's do this. Let's do Zoom meetings and we'll invite everybody.
Yeah.
Then we have a shed in Denver. We've got, which is in the Middle West. We have a shed down in Louisiana, not too far from New Orleans. And we have a shed outside of Chicago in a town called Eglin, Illinois. We've got one shed in Michigan. We've got 2 sheds in Wisconsin. So between Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, we have eight sheds, which is about half of our total.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's kind of sparse. Florida, we have one, but they're expecting to spin off at least one more pretty quickly after we're find a way to manage COVID. And but of course, part of the fun of being in the national leadership is we get to talk to people that are wanting to do it and asking for our advice or a lot of questions. So we've got groups, not just individuals, but groups in Pennsylvania, in Tennessee, and some other places where they're really interested. And in some cases, the state of Vermont, which is on the East Coast,
yeah.
A gal there got time off from work and a grant from her company, and she was going to set up 3 men's sheds in Vermont. And
wow.
They'd picked out their places, and they were talking to us about, how do we do this? How do we do that? Well, guess what? She left, she started her year sabbatical in March of this year. So on March 1st, she had $20,000, things all lined up. And by March 15th, they'd taken them back and they were
what a shame.
Stuck at home. So that's but there is a lot of interest and we do get quite a few inquiries. So, that's always fun to talk to people that are excited about the concept and want to find a way to make it work in their community.
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to the association, I from what I'm gathering, you've got some guys that are on board in it with you, but is it mostly yourself? And I'm sure your wife helps out with it. How have you managed to how are you structuring it currently with US Men's Shed Association, and how are you managing to tackle the workload of that movement as it's growing?
Sure. Well, one thing, again, early on, all the directors, we have 5 directors from different parts of the country. We've all read Barry Golding's thick book about the history, and it is interesting because, studying how other national associations, did they form the National Association first, or did they form sheds and then the sheds got together to form associations? And they seem to all do things a little differently. So we study those, and our approach has been basically, as we all know, there's no central authority directing men's sheds and what they do. So we're very typical like that. The national organization is really a spokesperson for the men's shed movement in the U.S. We spend a lot of our time and effort on helping sheds get started, answering questions. We also do a national newsletter,
Great.
an electronic newsletter that we get out. And if anybody's interested in receiving that, if they just get hold of you and you can send their name to me. And our next newsletter is coming out in August. So there'll be an article about COVID. There'll be, it's basically what are the different sheds doing? And that's produced out of Hawaii, and Glenn Sears does that. Otherwise, we get invitations to speak. I've certainly done my fair share of Rotary International clubs or the Lions or things like that. And it's always nice to go do those. So those are the typical things. We've written a constitution, we have bylaws, and so we do some organizing and planning. But basically, and we're all volunteers. We don't have any paid men's shed position yet in the States. And right now I've been checking around with all the different associations, say, how did you go from, all volunteers to,
the staff,
your first paid person, your first staff member, and, what caused you to do that? And what did the first person do? And how do you handle, do you do recruiting? How do you do shed support? And again, since so many of you have, already done it ahead of us, it's just really fun to see how different associations have done that.
Yeah, and it is very varied. And I think that's the thing, is that everyone's done some things right, some have done some things wrong. It's all a learning curve. And I think at the UKMSA we've been the same, to just, if you can just pay attention to what's happening elsewhere in the world, and pick and choose all of the bits of information which work. I think that's the thing, is that, like, it's become, I suppose, in many ways easier to start a men's shed now for us in the UK in particular, because we've got a tried and tested route. There's lots of support out there. Everyone can tell you 100 ways to get it right, 100 ways to get it wrong. And so it's the same thing now, as the movement's begun to sort of, it's still very young and still very embryonic in the United States and Canada, that it's that people are looking, to the other associations to see how things can be done. And that's why I think that, people's international interest in Shedfest has been lovely, because it's kind of spawned that idea of, okay, so now we know we can do it on this level as well. And when you're talking about, continents with the land masses that you've got and the distances that it involves in North America and Canada, huge spaces. So again, we've now begun, like we were the other night, discussing, how do we create that outreach? How do we begin to, market the idea of sheds positively, pushing the message forward in the right way, that it reaches the right people and the right organizations to support them, because it is important that the sheds get support. It's nice to encourage sheds to do it themselves, but I think it can be very, very challenging. I know it can be challenging. And I think that the United States and Canada have both got different structures, which stuff that we've tried here just wouldn't work. Or you're at that stage where while it's still in growth, and when you think of how the UK sheds movement has attracted a lot of attention, the UKMSA has gone into a strong place now, where we've got great sponsors on board. We've got a great staff team that have been working, working really hard over the last couple of years to get things into the right place. And all credit to them, they've done that really well. And it's, but also they've needed guidance in that, because they've come in from sectors that weren't about sheds. Sure. And so it's a big learning curve for everyone. And it's nice to feel that, we've kept learning lessons. And so, you know, for us, obviously, we've got a constitution. The UKMSA I'm talking about are a charity. And so all of our members are members with a vote. And that's an important thing for them. So, you know, we know that we will get taken to task if anything irks the membership, that we are responsible
I have
and
to say
answerable to
that
them.
that's something we're looking at is membership. I believe Australia's members are the sheds themselves, and then other associations do it one person, one vote. And
it's whatever works, really. I think if you can look at it,
I think
in the US, they're probably going to look at it. I think with the US, you've got a very strong sense of independence and sovereignty, and because of your existing constitution, I think that you know, I guess my sort of interpretation of it culturally is that everyone will want that same kind of, you know, they'll want the vote, they'll want to feel that they're, and so they should. It's I think it's the way that you know, you're always going to get the voices that are going to come out with things that you think, I don't know how we can meet that need. We'd like to, but that, you know, some people can be very vocal and it's their way or the highway. But other than that, you've got a lot of voices that have great ideas. And remember, folks, that the sheds themselves, we are the people that have come out with all the ideas. So all these things were birthed from within sheds, and it'll continue to be that way. You know, but any support that, you know, we can give just as people, because it's a hard road, and you've got to really, really stick at it. And you know, I guess that's the thing, isn't it? So many of us, we've only got so much time and so much energy to, you know, devote to these things voluntarily.
We find in the US, like elsewhere in the world, there's so many places that are in need of men's sheds, whether it's lightly populated rural areas, whether it's inner cities and different ethnicities. We I think there's a great need for this, and there is interest in different cultures. So we just find there's ways to make it fit anywhere, because, you know, we're all humans. You know, we want some of the same things. We all want to support our families, and we all, you know, want to have something we do we're proud of. And I haven't yet run into a group where I said, you know, men should probably not a good fit for you guys. You know, I don't think that's ever going to happen.
No, I agree with you. I think when the movement, and it's already got off to a great start. I think if you look at the now, when I first went out to Ireland, 2016, October 2016, and the UK, I think when I joined my shed, we were shed member number 111 or something like that. It wasn't more than that. But in reality, when we checked all the records, there was about, I think, something like 60 something sheds that were actually paid members. The rest were just ghost records. Now that was 2016. That's members of the association. And so as the exponential growth that we've seen in the UK is something that I've always been aware of and concerned about, because of our population density. And so the growth in those years, now we're at what we reckon is around 600 sheds. The UKMSA itself as an association has 408 of those as members. And there's 160, 170 something sheds we perceive in development in the UK as a whole. So that's huge, and it's still growing. So you've really got to, and I've always been aware of making sure that the UKMSA has managed to answer that call. Having a stable staff team and a good staff team has seen the membership go in a massive upward curve. So the number of sheds has grown, and our percentage of membership has gone with it, has increased, you know, kind of exponentially. So it's meeting that need, it's meeting the expectations, and then you've got that issue of you've created a hungry beast that needs money to feed the staff. I think that most people assume that, you know, because none of the trustees, myself included, we're all volunteers, none of us get paid, that you only have our staff that are paid. And so our challenge is trying to, you know, for the next step will be definitely creating, more sources or working on getting more funding in to support the staff, to grow the team so it can cope with the increase. And it's always going to be a challenge, but you've got to keep your eye on the ball of making sure that you do the right thing by the people in the sheds and by the sheds themselves.
Sure.
I'm always happy to talk about what's going on, but it's nice to to know. I think for the shedders to know that there's guys like yourselves and the other people we've had on working hard behind the scenes to make sure we're aware of it. That we know the need is going to grow, but it's about making sure that all your ducks are lined up properly in the right direction with the right ethics and morals to still be doing what you say on the tin.
Yep, that's great. Say, I did want to do a shout out. We have just redone our national website. And
sure.
This time we had a professional do it. So it looks very nice. So if anybody would like to come visit our website, the URL is US men's plural, sheds plural, .org. So usmensheds.org. And say it's nice. Not all the pages are finished, but it's very good. And again, we're proud to have that done. And that's certainly getting a lot of hits and visits from around the world and here in the States. So little by little, we're catching up to the rest of you that have had more years experience. But that makes it fun for us too. And as everybody has said internationally that we've talked to is, don't take your time, you're going to learn, they're going to make mistakes, but that's okay. It just do it the way you do it for your members, what works best for them, and don't feel like you in the US need to copy the way, we're doing it.
And that's a really good message. You stick to your own cultural way of doing your association, because I think that's what's worked. We've always wanted to stick with a unique model in the UK, and I think we really have been successful in doing that. And you have to look at what's gone before. I think for any association, the key is to keep, just acknowledge you will always keep learning, keep listening to your members, keep learning, keep evolving, and be open to everything that comes along, because the great thing is that there are lots of innovators and creators in the sheds, and listen out to the ideas, but also look at what people are doing around the world. What's come up in the shows, and people have said this, is every time you have a show, every time you do one of these interviews, a new aspect, a new thing to consider about the world of sheds comes into the conversation. And so there's all these pieces which we're all gathering. Nobody is an expert. Nobody has the answers completely. But the more that we share and the more that we collaborate, the stronger that movement will be worldwide. And so we'll find that, we'll be supporting the associations and supporting all the support organizations. Even if it's just saying, listen to the conversations. I think this is the thing of, once someone steps into the shed, then you get the feeling of the shed. You can feel it for real. And it's that spirit of the shed, or that Shedison factor that we were talking about, that to me is the thing which people need to understand. It's like, if we're promoting anything, it's a case of Shedison. Shedison is what it is. And it's this magical X factor that just works for the people that get involved with it. It's a beautiful movement to be part of, Phil, isn't it?
Yeah. By the way, I was telling our board about that here. We have our national board meetings every 2 weeks. We have another one tonight. So I'll be talking about my experience visiting Shed Fest 2020. And one thing I've already mentioned, a couple of the directors, is the Shedison and that cool sticker. You've got, last week I was introduced to Caprice, who's in Pennsylvania, and she and I are lining up a phone call, but I would love to have a Shedison mug and
we got to get the merchandise moving.
I think that's a perfect message. People get it, and that's what people, I think, it's such a useful part of our whole program is helping guys improve their health, improve their well-being. And to me, the concept of Shedison is really, right on the money.
Yeah, it is brilliant. Well done, Dan. All credit to you, mate. Hit the nail on the head. Hashtag Shedison. This is where you heard it, and this is where we're going to end up. It's going to be expanding pretty soon. So we are looking to launch the campaign soon once we get our selves aligned with what we're doing with it. And it's something that we hope is going to be, well, we know it's going to be a rallying call for the sheds around the world and for all the people in them. It's a really important time moving forward in the world. We need to make sure that people's well-being is safeguarded, that the mental health is safeguarded, that we are looking at all the issues around suicide prevention for everybody. And so it is something which people get it. And it's, even if you're not a member of a shed, you get the idea. There's a lot of guys that their shed is their man cave. It's their little safe space. And so it's a lovely, lovely concept. So
yes,
one that works with us at Shed Sans Frontières will be part of it. And for us, it's about spreading that joy and that connection, because, like you say, Phil, you don't have to have a great big workshop to identify yourself as a shed. The most important thing for the people, in most cases, it's the social aspect of it. It's the conversation and the cuppa. In your case, it's going to be a cup of coffee, not a cup of tea.
sure.
Or maybe it will. We might have to, we'll have to educate you. If I send you a hashtag Shedison teapot, people may not know what it's. They might try and, smoke it like a pipe or something.
That's what it'd be a conversation starter. So no, that'd be fun. I know we're going to have fun with that. We'll probably, over the next 6 months, see who comes up with the funniest or the strangest use of putting Shedison on something. It's just going to happen, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, so all credit to Dan Gamay, my co-founder here at Shed Sans Frontières, and to Caprice Pickett in Pennsylvania there. She's probably tuning in. Hey, Caprice. Yeah, for the lovely logo and great stuff. It's lovely for me to have great people collaborating with me as well. And nice that we've sort of, I think it's, having some time of reflection after Shed Fest, and then doing the Youth Sheds interview with Scott Jenkinson last week, and yourself today, and lovely that was born out of Shed Fest, has been a really, really, I sort of sat back in it over the weekend and just sort of had some time to reflect and thought, wow, it's really coming together. And the platform that I've always chosen to create to bring the sheds around the world together is, starting to unfold nicely. And like, Dan and Caprice and myself had a conversation about it only yesterday, and just said, look at the beautiful people that are starting to gravitate towards what we're doing. You're doing the right thing when you have so many good people in all these countries coming together and wanting to be part of it, choosing to be part of it. So yeah, I think we're going to have some great fun with it. I think particularly in the States, I think the campaign's going to be a really good grounding for it, because, I think, well, worldwide, we've been through this, and hopefully we're coming out, touch wood, coming out the end of this pandemic and this scare about COVID-19. And it's time to get back to business. But I think it's time to learn those lessons and, use our voices, bring our voices together even stronger than before for people's well-being. To me, sheds have always been about the business of saving lives on some level, even if those people didn't know it. Or improving lives. So if we can bring that together, I think moving forward, it strengthens the movement worldwide, because so much good service is being done to humanity in every little pocket where sheds are, in every community. It really, really does need recognizing, and also recognizing that it is a really, fun thing to be part of. It is a cool movement. Whichever way you look at it, I mean, it's so many guys, you probably find this in the guys in your own sheds, they're all saying, it's one of the best things they've ever done in their life. And like you say, particularly like you said for yourself, you looked around, what is there for, retired men's activities?
And I think it was so important, the concept that every shed does what they want to do. So, again, all the other fraternal organizations and other things, why isn't Men's Shed, like a golfing club or a tennis club, or even the fraternal organizations like the Lions and the Rotary International, they have a focus on a particular type of activity, and the guys here, as elsewhere in the world, they just, we want to do our own thing, and Men's Shed lets you do that, and I think it's time now in history to come about, and I think it's going to be the model that really moves forward the fastest in terms of generating new sheds and new membership, because it offers what our aging population is really looking for: friendship, hopefulness, acceptance, and brotherhood.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's when we look at this, we had these discussions on one of our other Zoom calls with Nairn Men's Shed in Scotland, and the subject came up between a few of us about what an ageist society we have in the UK, and it's not one of those things which is included in the Equalities Act. It's not something which people would readily admit to discriminating over, but they definitely do, particularly when it comes to jobs and employment. And so how do you find it in the USA, Phil? Do you find it's the same sort of ageist society there?
Yeah, I don't know if we have the challenge of, say, Japanese society, where they're really, what do you call it, when your population is going down?
It's in decline.
It's a real issue because so much of our population, well, as a matter of fact, all our population except for Native Americans are immigrants, and so that has really helped our society stay young and vibrant, with all the cultures that come in and bring the best of themselves. So, but it's true. I'm a baby boomer, and it's just a fact that it's getting older. So, it's certainly not a problem in my mind, since that's my generation. So it's just natural order of things, and people are paying attention. I don't feel like society is pushing us aside. We're still a vital part of the economy and the political nature of our government and our society. So it hasn't been a problem. And of course, the COVID response really, I think, has backed up that, showing people that we as a society do care about the most vulnerable of us, and it seems like we certainly aren't the forgotten.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. I think as well, you hit it on the head there. Really, that that in the wake of COVID subsiding and things getting back, well, I think it's an opportunity to start remaking some ways that we've been living, and in a way, it's time for the sheds and the shed model to sort of step out from the shadows a little bit and demonstrate, that it's here, and you can have community sheds, you can have different models, but it's all about supporting people. It's about, creating this opportunity. I mean, when we went to the International Loneliness Conference in London, the people that we met, the people that we met, Vivek Murthy, the former Surgeon General of the US, and people are just, everyone is kind of saying this model of sheds is like the ideal thing for working to deal with loneliness and tackling it. So, the word is out there, the studies are being done, the evidence is there, it's growing all the time. And it's time to get excited about it and start sort of passing the message on and saying, look, it really is this effective. And really what we're doing is we're just replacing a lot of community that's been lost in all of the Western countries, all of the capitalist countries where that's been diminished over the last few decades, we're starting to tick that box once again for people, because, you know, we're starting to see, well, if we've got so much and everything is so great, then why are there so many unhappy, disaffected people?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense, because if it's all going and it's all great, it's going that way, then why have you got this, you know, terrible kind of, you know, hidden mental health epidemic and well-being epidemic? And it's I think a lot of it is a sickness of the spirit, which we see. It's okay when you're riding the wave and you're on the curve and everything's going well for you, but as soon as it's not, whether it happens to do with health or something else, then where's the fence at the edge of the cliff now? And I think that sheds are really going to be a key in the future of, and that's why I've been throughout the COVID crisis so keen to sort of push this message of, yeah, you know, we're not stepping in some new norm where we can't connect with each other anymore. That's really what we wish to avoid. Sheds were set up to tackle this. And so we now need to step up and say, look, we're going to tell you the message, the story of the sheds. This is what they do for people.
Yeah.
This is the lives they've saved. It's vital.
Well, and it's so set up to fit the needs of the local shed members. Certainly, independence is part of the American culture and psyche, and it's really good to be able to talk to someone who's a mayor of a city or a senior center director of a town, and the message is, well, you can do what you want. You know, you don't have to first build a workshop, and you know, we're not going to tell you how to do it. It's you know, your own thing, given these requirements. For
the guidelines
thing and welcoming. And it just seems to be a good fit. In a lot of situations.
Yeah, it's nice, and we can, you know, in a world which was seeming to become increasingly lonely, that the sheds are becoming this friendly face of community once again for so many people. So it's really heartwarming, and you know, and even during the early weeks of lockdown for me as well, friends of mine, fellow shed leaders, and people that reached out to me, and I was beginning to feel the bite of the lockdown, being isolated in my own home for so long. You know, like 9 weeks in, it was getting like, yeah, okay, I've really had enough of this now. And it was just serendipity that I got a phone call from Graham down the road in Saltney, and we had a good chat. And you know, so I got to go and see him and go and do a walkthrough about, you know, reopening the sheds, and get some sort of reflection on that side of things. So, you know, it's lovely that the support networks are out there, and I think the more we can grow that for everybody, and also it's important to support people like yourselves as leaders of the national associations and all of the shed leaders, you know, around the globe and in all their communities. It's the shed leaders that are really have so much. It's great fun, we know it is, and the pressures can be huge, and when there's no one to turn to, it's very hard. So, you know, supporting the shed leaders, getting everyone talking, and like we have done with the Zoom calls, there's been so much fun and so much chatter and banter and some really, you know, impassioned moments. Lovely stuff, really great stuff. So yeah, in many ways it's been an interesting experience. Sometimes it's about turning your mind state. That's what I found. After feeling overwhelmed, it was then a case of, well, how do I do something good in this? How do I turn this situation around and begin to, you know, move that energy outwards again, rather than feeling it was all kind of, you know, imploding.
Sure. It's been a great movement, and we're excited that it's, you know, finally taking off here in the U.S.
So any sort of future plans that are on the back burner for you at the moment for growing it?
Not really. We're all kind of waiting. You know, we have a more independent type of government. I don't want to say fractured necessarily, but because each state of our 50 states really have their own plan for coming out of COVID.
Yes.
You know, it's each shed is, got to find their way and decide what'll work for their members in terms of when do they start getting together again and under what circumstances. So I think, that's going to be the near term issue for many of our sheds, just make a transition back into getting together as seamless as possible, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, good. I think that's the thing. Just keep trying, keep allowing it to roll out organically, keep having the conversations with everybody that you can. And the more, I think the more that everyone keeps working together as well, we've got little bits of information, we're having these conversations, all this lovely content's going out onto the internet. So it's there for everyone to tune into and to take from it what they will. And really from our point of view, from Shed Some Frontier, from our point of view, it's about that message of hope and that message of positivity and unity and collaboration, and just saying, open the doors, meet everyone around you. The feeling of it was lovely. I mean, that just the smile and the cheers when you came on that first Zoom call. It was just fantastic, and that was such a spontaneous moment. It was a really beautiful and a historical moment, because it's the first time so many of us have come together in one place, and particularly through this digital medium. It was really, really, really cool.
Yeah, let me say, one of the histories that really interests me is the start of the worldwide Boy Scout movement, which started by Sir Baden-Powell there in England. I've read a lot about, that story, and then how it happened to get over here because of a good turn done by a scout who came out of the fog in London and helped an American find his way to where he was going in a thick fog. And it's just neat, and how Sir Baden-Powell, I guess, first took a group of scouts out to Sea Island, as I remember, and, taught these boys skills that all boys like to do, the scouting, the camping, the cooking, and it just made sense immediately. And I feel the same way about Men's Shed, that this is a historical time, and it feels like this is going to be around a while, because it just meets so many basic human needs.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's why it's important to support people in the movement and people that are spearheading it at this time, just because, it takes a lot of energy. And it can be easy to get thwarted at times as well. And I think that's the thing is, keep on keeping on and foster that spirit of resilience and positivity. So great stuff.
Okay.
Well, Phil, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on today.
This has been really great fun. Thank you so much for having us on. I appreciate it, and it's been a terrific time. And let's do it again. Certainly, I think by next year, ShedFest 2021, hopefully might be a time at which you're holding it, together again. And I think that'd be a great time for me to get on a plane. And
wouldn't it just?
That's in the back of my mind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Keep it there. You'd be more than welcome. There's always a place for you here. So, it'd be lovely to have you as a guest, because I think it's going to be great to do some more work together.
Yeah.
So, I really look forward to that. And I look forward to sharing that with everyone. It's nice to hear that things are starting to get back to business. Myself, this weekend, I've met up with some of my guys, and had a nice wander around the hills. It was really, really, really good just to check in with people again, and just go, for all of us, it was like, oh wow, we're getting back to normal. At least we can come out and have a talk, just hear the variation in how this whole situation has affected people's lives in so many different ways. So it's lovely to feel it, and even because Wales, the lockdown's easing a little bit here. So getting out a little bit further in the car for a walk in the hills and see some nice places. it's really good for the spirit. It's really good for the soul. And so, yeah, it's lovely to think that the world is hopefully getting back to that good place, Shed to get back to business. And we've also got a new kind of connection with each other to move forward with. And that's something which is really, really, really encouraging. So,
Great.
Phil, thank you for being a part of it.
Well,
thank you for
Nathan.
coming on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Phil Johnson for the United States Men's Shed Association. Phil, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Very well.
And we look forward to having you back on and maybe get in touch with the guys, whoever else wants to come on and chat. Yeah. More than happy to hear all the different, hear some of the other directors chat about what's going on with them and how they came into the movement. Everybody's stories, really interested in hearing it. So, yep, so we'll be back next week. I think it's going to be on Thursday next week. So watch out for details. We'll be posting them soon of episode 6. So this is me, Nathan Sarea, saying everyone stay safe and take care of yourselves. Long live the sheds.
Great. Bye, everyone.